Good afternoon. Thought I'd do a little video on the history of my Saab 9.5, give you some details as to where the car came from, who's owned it, what work has been done and whatnot. And Facebook and YouTube follower Stephen Young has told me that all he wants to see is a walk around video on the Saab. He said no more rivers, no more trees, and no more, Geoff mindfulness. He just wants to see the car. So instead of doing a walk around video on the Saab, I drove my Land Rover down to the river and I'm going to broadcast from here. Sorry, Stephen. It's just the way the dice has rolled today. Also, quite like my Land Rover. I keep using it quite a lot. It's quite a handy little thing to own. So, here we go. History of the Saab 9.5, my Saab 9.5, and the river just there. And if we're lucky, maybe the people in the background will catch some fish. This video is brought to you by Vehicle Smart. Better just check that they are called Vehicle Smart. They are called Vehicle Smart. Vehicle Smart are a vehicle checking company. They have an app and you can go on your phone, you can download the app and you can put your registration in. You can check all the details of the car and you can also store vehicles in your garage. But I'm a bit old school. So instead what I did is I got the report. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Then I emailed it to myself and printed it out.
Everybody likes new inventions, new technology.
Save the planet and all that. But I'm old school. I like stuff like that. But if you want, you can keep all your cars, your insurance records, MOT records, everything on your phone. That's quite handy. I'll show you in a minute what came up when I checked the Saab, but very easy to use and I highly recommend them. There's a link in the description. Click that link and I don't know, I get a slice of cheesecake every time you go online and buy a app, something like that. My Saab 9.5 was first registered on the 7th of July 2000. Now, when I did my vehicle check, it passed all the checks. It wasn't scrapped, it wasn't stolen, any of that sort of stuff. But it did come up with a warning which said the car was imported. And I thought, hey, that's odd. It's a right-hand drive, UK, Saab 9.5. How can it be imported? Anyway, if you go back through the history file of the car, what you find is a document, which I don't have with me, which is a bit silly. What you find is a document that says that the car was bought new in Finland and driven back to London, England. And I thought, that's a bit strange. Why would you do that? This document had the first owner's name on it. Now, Saab drivers traditionally are intellectuals, people of power and wealth and influence.
This person likes Audis. This one likes Ferraris. This one likes the bus. This one has a Honda. He has a Peugeot. And then you have this chap with the black polo neck and the thin specs. He's an architect and he likes Saabs.
And I was surprised to find that the first owner was a bricklayer. I'm joking, and nothing against bricklayers at all. Obviously, the first owner wasn't a bricklayer. He was actually an investment banker, quite an important one at that. He was the head of investment banking for all of the Scandinavia and Norway region for UBS Bank. So he ordered this under the international and diplomatic sales department from Saab, ordered it from Finland, drove it back to London. When it was in London, my Vehicle Smart check tells me that it wore the number plate 1NCV. That's quite an expensive number plate, so I think this guy had a little bit of cash behind him. I'm not going to drop his name here, just in case you all get in touch with him, but I know his name, and I emailed him. I actually found him. He now runs some sort of investment company for some people that have got lots of stuff to invest, and I imagine he's a very important and very busy man. But he took the time to email Geoff Buys Cars and say, thanks for your email. I did buy it new in Finland. I did drive it back to London. I did like that car a lot. And we only got rid of it when we needed something bigger and we went to a 4x4. So that is the first owner of the Saab. He paid 30,000 euros for it. You're probably going back to the days when it was cheaper as well to buy a car in Europe. You're probably just on the cusp. It has had 11 owners. That's quite a lot of owners for a car like this, but it's important to remember this is a fast car and it's expensive to run. People don't always keep fast cars that are expensive to run for very long, so that explains why there's been a lot of owners. But what's brilliant is 4 of them have been on Facebook and commenting on my post. So between the 4 that I know of, and I know their names and I've been chatting to them, and they've all said, that was my old car, I looked after it, and a lot of them have emailed me and said, I own that from this year's and those years, here's some photos of me with the car. So with those 4, and the first owner of the car, that's like half the owners accounted for. So other interesting stuff that's in the story file, it was purchased by a Mrs Hill in Middlesex in 2007. Now, I suspect that she was the 2nd or 3rd owner. She part exchanged a Rover 200 in metallic mauve with 40,000 miles on the clock. They allowed £500 for that car as a part exchange, and that was the end of the car. It disappeared after that. But the MOT history on that car looks like it was all good. It looks like it was a good car. So great shame. But there you go. That's quite a difference, isn't it? Mrs Hill part exchanged her little, doddery Rover 200 for a almost 300 horsepower car. I gestured at this car like I was in the Saab then, but this is a Land Rover Freelander, and it absolutely hasn't got 300 horsepower, and it can't do 155 mile an hour. So in terms of the service history, we've got some pretty decent service history in the early days of its life, and then it all sort of tails off as the car gets older, but then it picks up again, and I'll come on to this. So I've got lots of stuff. I've got services, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, not listed, and then 38,000 miles in 2010. And then the trail sort of picks up again in 2011. We start to get some money spending on the car, 43,000 miles. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. At 62,000 miles in 2013, the car had a new engine. It had a complete engine supplied by Neo Brothers Saab, engine, turbo, Cobra intake, and Polybush subframes at a total cost of £2,100. And then they paid a company to fit it at £800. So there was £3,000 was spent on this car in putting in the new engine and polybushing the subframe and doing the turbo and the Cobra air intake and then the map. There was a lot of money spent on this car at a time when it probably wasn't really worth all that much. So that is pretty interesting in my book. There's not a great deal of paperwork for it recently, but people have been buying parts for it. So it's been owned by the kind of people that do servicing work at home. But I found that the story on this car, the fact that it was purchased new in Finland and driven back to London, the fact that I've been in touch with the previous owner, the details of the part exchange in 2007, all the paperwork and just the general spec of the car really sold it for me. I enjoyed going through this history file and finding those little nuggets of information. A very well cared for, very cool car that I think someone will really, really appreciate. Lovely spec, silver with beige leather. Very nice car indeed. Interestingly as well, it is a Saab 9.5 Aero. I won't give you his full name, but the first owner of this car who bought it in Finland was kind of called Aero. There's only one letter in his name different to Aero, A-E-R-O, Aero. Change one of those letters and you've got the name of the first owner. So I wonder if that influenced him when he was looking at the Saab brochure and thinking, shall I get a 2-litre turbo? No, I'll have an Aero because that's my name. Don't wear it out. I didn't even use your name. There we go. Thank you for watching my little video. I don't know if the guys down there caught any fish, but I'm launching into another video in this same spot now, and I'm going to be here for a little longer. So if you didn't see any fish caught in this video, maybe you will in the next one. Thanks for watching.
Geoff buys cars. Still, YouTube's most boring car channel.